beautiful people, welcome to Remy's Fashion. My name is Remy. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to draft and sew this beautiful corset top with already made bra cup. If this is something you like to learn, then keep watching. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so and put on your notification bell so that anytime I upload new tutorials, you'll be the first to be notified. The materials you need are this. I'm going to be using this net fabric. This is green, and then I'm going to be using this crepe fabric. I'm going to be using this, and I'll use this for the main fabric, and I'm also going to be using this for the lining. This is going to be underneath the net lace. Then you should also have interfacing. I'm going to be using stay for this. So this is my stay. I'm going to iron my stay to my fabric before cutting out my pattern pieces. It's a lot easier that way. Then already made bra cup. You should buy your already made bra cups. This is what I'm going to be using for this tutorial. I'm going to cover it with my fabric, and then I have this Regilene bone in here, which we're going to be using for the channels. Okay, we're going to be covering it up with bias tape. You can decide to make your own bias tape. I am going to be making mine. I can either make my bias tape or use already made bias tape. This all depends on you. This is a personal preference. Then I have my notcher, my cutters, my ruler, my iron, and you should have your other basic sewing supplies. The measurements you will need are on the screen. So let's start drafting. So the first thing I'm going to do is to draw out my starting point. I always like to have a starting point. So I'm going to be drawing out my starting point. From this starting point now, I'll draw out my vertical measurements. So I'll measure from my shoulder to my bust. Mine is 12 inches. Shoulder to under bust. Mine is 16 inches. And then shoulder to my waist. Mine is 19 inches. And then shoulder to the full length of my corset. I want my corset to be 24 inches. And then I'm going to add extra 5 inches for the basque effect. And I'll measure. I'll do it on this side as well. And then I'll draw horizontal lines to connect. So the next thing I need to do now is to label. So I have finished labeling my pattern. So the next thing I'm going to do now is on my shoulder line, I'm going to measure my shoulder divided by 2. My shoulder measurement is 17 inches. Divide 17 by 2 is going to give me 8.5. That's 8.5 inches. And I'll mark. And then I'm going to be drawing out my neck width. So this corset is going to be having sleeves. But for now, I'm going to be using a neck width of 4.5 inches. This is my neck width of 4.5 inches. And then this is my shoulder measurement. So I will slope my shoulder by 1 inch. And then I'll connect to this neck width down here. Like this. So after doing that, the next thing I need to do now is to draw out my chest line. And to do that, you need to divide your bust circumference measurement by 6 and add 1.5 inches. And by the time I do my own calculation, mine is 9 inches. I'll measure 9 inches here. I'll mark. And then I'll take this shoulder measurement that is 8.5 inches. I'll make sure the 8.5 inches is here. Like that. And then I'll draw this line outwards. Connect the points. So this right here is my chest line. And then I'll drop this down here. Remember, I said I was going to bring down my shoulder here. I'm going to bring down my shoulder measurements so that the line is straight. And then I will draw this line down. So after doing this, the next thing I need to do now is to draw out my armhole curve. For that, I need to divide this line. I need the midpoint. So half of this line is the midpoint. So get the midpoint of this line. So mine is 4.5 inches. I'll mark. And then I'm going to go in by 3/4 of an inch. 3/4 of an inch. That puts me here. To be able to draw out the curve, you need your bust circumference measurement plotted on the chest line. So my bust circumference measurement is 44 inches. Divided by 4 is 11 inches. So I measure 11 inches on my chest line and I will mark. So the next thing is to connect from this point to this point to this point with a curve ruler, and this will be your armhole curve. So this is my armhole curve. Then on the under bust line, I'm going to plot in my nipple to nipple measurement. So whatever your nipple to nipple measurement is, divided by 2, I'm going to plot it in here on the waistline, on the length line, and on the basque line. So mine is 4.5 inches. I'll measure 4.5 inches and I'll mark. I'll do the same thing on my waistline. After doing this, I will draw a vertical line to connect all the points. And then on the waistline, I will open up my dart by 1/2 inch on each side. So that's a total of 1 inch. I'll mark. I'll do the same thing on the basque line. This line that I'm going to be using for my basque effect. I'll measure 1 inch total. That's 1/2 inch on each side. And then I will connect from the waistline to the basque line like this. I'll do the same thing for the other side. And then from the under bust line, I will draw out my dart legs and connect it to the waistline like this. So this is my dart. So after doing this, the next thing I'm going to do is to plot in my circumference measurement. That is the body measurement. So on the chest line, I've already plotted in my bust circumference measurement on the chest line. So mine is 11 inches, which I've already done here. Then on the waistline, my waist circumference measurement divided by 4 is 9.5 inches. I'll measure 9.5. And I will add. This is my hip line. On the hip line, my hip circumference divided by 4. Mine is 47 inches divided by 4. So that's going to give me 11.75. So on the length line, 11.75 I'll mark. On here as well, 11.75 and I will mark. And then the next thing you should do is I took 1 inch dart on here, so I'll add it back. I also took 1 inch here. I will add it back. I also took 1 inch here. I'm going to add it back. And then the dart you took, I took 1 inch. I will add it back here. So 1 inch. I add it back. I'll add this one back as well, which is 1 inch. I'll add it back. That's 1 inch. I'll add this one back as well. And then I'll connect all the points. So I'll connect from my chest to my waistline. And then from the waist, I'll connect to the hip line. And then from here, I'll connect all the way down to the basque line. Okay, so the next thing I need to do now is I'm going to use my bra cup to create the space for the bra cup. So before I do that, on the bust line, I'll go in by 1/2 inch. This is the bridge between the two busts, 1/2 inch. I'll measure the same thing on my under bust line, 1/2 inch. And then I'll connect using a straight ruler. Okay, so like this. And then I will take my bra cup, see, and then this is my under bust. I'll make sure this is underneath it, and then this part here is on top of this part, see, and then this part is underneath the under bust. So you move it like this and hold it in such a way that it's not flat. Okay, and make sure that point is there and then it is not flat. I'm holding the cup like this. I'm cupping it in a bit and it's still on the under bust. Okay, and then the next thing you need to do is to draw it out, and when you're drawing, make sure it doesn't shift. So this is under here. Okay, so this is under here, it's touching here, this 1/2 inch. Okay, this is underneath here and that is there. So you cup it in such a way that it doesn't move. Now I'll draw it out. So this is my bust point here, this mid, that's the dart, and then I'll draw this out. So I follow the shape, making sure that it does not move from here, and then draw it all the way to the top here. And here, just make that mark. This is going to be drawn into the armhole, see? And then by the time I take it out, this is what we have. So I'm going to connect this with a curve outwards and this one with a curve to the armhole. So after drawing it out, take note of this part, okay? You take the second bra cup and make sure you align them and then mark it on there as well. Okay, so I have the two of them marked. So the next thing I'm going to do now is this side here. I'm going to just connect it to the armhole area like this. Just connect it to the armhole area like that. So this is what we have. Like I said, this corset is going to be having a sleeve. So now I want to create the shoulder area for the sleeve to set in. On this chest line, I'm going to be measuring 4.5 inches as well. And then I'll connect from this point to this point. So this is going to be the shoulder area. It's going to be on top of the bra cup. When transferring to fabric, I'll add all my sewing allowances. So after doing this, the next thing I'm going to do now is to draft out our basque effect. So this is the length line for my corset. So from there, I will take my curve all the way to this end. This is like the V shape basque effect. So the next thing I need to do now is to cut out. So these are my front pattern pieces. So the bra cup is going to be in here like this. So this is what we have. So for the bra cup, that's for the armhole. When you're cutting out the armhole on this bra cup side, I drew my line diagonal like this. Just maintain the straight line so that when you're connecting the shoulder, it will fit in nicely. So maintain that line. Don't draw it diagonal. Just maintain that line. See, if I maintain the line to work out better for us, maintain the line, okay? Because we're going to be adding 1/2 inch sewing allowance to join this together. So maintain that line so that by the time I bring this in, I'll add 1/2 inch sewing allowance to this and to this so that when I'm sewing them together, they'll connect nicely. So this is what we have. So the next thing we need to do now is to draft the back pattern for this corset top. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw out my zipper allowance. I'm going to be using 1 inch zipper allowance. And then I'll connect. So this is my 1 inch zipper. Okay, then I'll measure out my bust line. So this is my shoulder to bust. My shoulder to bust is 12 inches. Shoulder to waist, 19 inches. And the length of my top is 24 inches. There's no basque effect at the back. And then I'll connect my lines. And then I'll label. This is my bust line, waist line, and the length line. That's my hip line. So after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to measure out my shoulder. Mine is 8.5 inches. So from here, I'll measure 8.5 and I'll mark. And I'm going to slant it by 1 inch. And then the width of my neckline is 4.5. The same thing like the front. And then I'll connect from the slope to the width of my neckline like this. Okay, that's my slope. The next thing I need to do now is to draw out my chest line. And to do that, I'll measure my bust circumference measurement divided by 6 plus 1.5. For me, that's 9 inches, just like I did in front. And then I'll measure my shoulder measurement and I'll place it here. This is just to have the accurate length line. And then I'll drop this down. This is my armhole line. So this is my armhole line and this is my chest line. This is my chest line. So the next thing I need to do is to get the midpoint of this line, just like we did for the front. Mine is 4.5 inches. If yours is difficult to get, you can take your measurement like this and get the midpoint. And then for this corset, I'm going to be going in by 0.5 inch on this midpoint. That puts me here. And then I will measure the circumference divided by 4 and I'll plot that on my chest line. So mine is 11 inches. I'll plot it here 11 inches. And then I'll connect the 3 points like we did for the front, here and here. Like this. So this is my armhole for the back. The next thing we're going to do now is to draw out our dart. So on the chest line, I'll measure my nipple to nipple measurement. That's the same thing as bust span measurement. So mine is 4.5 inches. I'll do that on my chest line. I'll do it on my waistline. And then I'll do it on my hip line. After doing this, the next thing is on the length line, go up by 1 inch and mark. And then connect all the points to the chest line. So on the waistline now, I'm going to be opening up my dart by 1 inch total. That's half an inch on each side. So on the waistline, half an inch on each side. That's a total of 1 inch. So I'm going to connect upwards to the chest line like this. I'll do the same thing for the other side. And then downwards to this 1 inch. So after doing this, the next thing you need to do is to plot in your circumference measurement. We've already done that for the chest line. So my waist circumference measurement divided by 4 is 9.5 inches. I'll measure 9.5 and I'll plot on my waistline. And then I'll take this 1 inch, I'll put it back here. And then on my length line, my circumference measurement is 11.75. I'll measure 11.75, I'll mark. And then I will connect the points to give me my body shape. So I'll connect from the chest line to the waistline and from the waistline to the hip line. Like this. So the next thing we need to do is on the length line, I'm going to go up by 1 inch. This is going to give me a nice shape, and to avoid pointed edges, I'll connect to this part where we have the dart. So that goes all the way down there like this. So after doing this, the next thing we're going to do is I want to eliminate the zipper bulge. So on the waistline, to do that, on the waistline, I'll go in by half an inch. I'll mark. And then I'm going to go up to the chest line. So I'll connect to the chest line upwards and then downwards. Like this. And because I've done that for this, on this side, I'm going to do the same thing for this side as well. On the zipper side, I'll come in by half an inch. I'm going to go up and come down just like I did for this part. So this will eliminate our zipper bulge. Okay, upwards and then downwards. Like this. So we're not using this anymore. And that goes outwards. I'll extend this line downwards. So the next thing I need to do is to create my neckline. So if, for example, you're using this as the depth, then you can use this. If you don't want it deeper, then you decide to go up. This is a personal preference. I will be using this part for the purpose of this tutorial. My width here is 4.5 inches. Down here, I'll make it 3.5 inches. And then I'll connect both of them together. And decide to use whatever neckline you prefer. And then I'll connect outwards like this. So this is our new zipper allowance. So don't forget to label. This is my side back. This is my side back, and this is my center back. So the next thing I need to do now is to cut out this pattern. These are my back pattern pieces. These are my front pattern pieces. So this is my center front. This is going to be on fold. Center front. So this is going to be on fold. And then this is my side front. Side front. And then this is my yoke. So these are my corset pattern pieces for both the front and the back. The back pattern, I went up by 1 inch. I will also do the same thing for the front so that they are equal. And then I'll just connect. And then cut it out. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out my pattern pieces using my fabric. So with these, we have come to the end of this tutorial. In my next video, I will show you the cutting and sewing of this corset pattern. I do not want this video to be too long. I hope this tutorial was helpful. Give me a thumbs up. Please like, share, and subscribe if you have not done so already. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next tutorial. Take care and God bless.